Alrighty, so week 8, learn together. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about how I could come up with something new for you to do, right? I'm actually challenging myself to do what I'm asking you to do, which is to come up with new ideas and come up with things that you are implementing from your own thinking, from your own vision, from your own thought process. So I decided to be the change that I want to be see in the world. So I'm going to go over my week 8 work here in a minute and show you what I want you to do for this. But I would just want to say really quickly, we're in week 8, week 9, week 10, 11, and then your next develop it will be due. And I've noticed that most of you in the attendance are actually going to take the same concept forward, which is totally fine. Just to give you the heads up, what this means is that we're going to get all the way through, and this is an important section, data, storage, libraries, and more. We're going to learn how to update, save the user update into local storage. Use dates, how to have multiple pages so that you can edit the data that you got from the user. And then we'll also get through expanding our JavaScript knowledge with including arrow functions, ternary operators, true, false, not coercion, just understanding it, but throwing errors. So you can expect that what I will be doing is taking these pieces of new JS functionality that you've learned, and that will be the Dev 1. So we're actually not that far away from it. So I will start working on those requirements in the coming weeks, but do know that's right before we go out for spring break. And the other thing is I'm actually, because of my schedule of being on committees, I'm only going to have code reviews up until that Thursday night and not Friday like I did this time. So just know that schedule may change a little bit. Okay, so coming back here. So what you just finished was really, and this is, I say this every time, I got to quit saying it, but it's true. Right? Learning how to work with getting the user input, responding to that input. I mean, this whole idea of doing the filtered data so that as you type, you see only the filtered items is a great skill to have. And then working with form checkboxes and drop downs, right? So there's so many different ways that you will see in your career to interact with the user and to get that user input and respond appropriately. So again, I kind of this morning thought about this idea of how could I take what you've learned and give you a new experience. So, we'll see how challenging this will be. So here's the output I've created. And yours, I want it to look different. So I want you to style it. And you might say, well, wait a minute, this class doesn't talk about CSS. No, this class assumes you've had some CSS, okay? So if you don't, go get inspired somewhere. And if you've, used some CSS from a site, just say that. So in this case, I used a Google font, and I actually left the link up here, but you can do a Google font. They're really easy to use, and they're really fun. I named mine Build It. Now, you can name yours whatever you want, but here's the basic functionality. I want you to have the user put in a number, like let's say 60. It's a lot, right? And then which element do they want to build? Right? So let's say I wanted to build an H1. And then when you build it, it builds it. Right? Kind of fun. Right? So let's say I wanted to do it again. Now notice how it clears the form. And I actually told you what I use. You wouldn't have to use form, but form sure makes sense when you have more than one input. So let's say I wanted to say 4, and let's say I wanted to do 4 P's. Right? Boom. Right? So that's the functionality. Now, there are going to be some elements this doesn't work for. So that's one of the things. And let me just come back over here and show you what I've written up for this week, okay, is that I want you to, right, take a look at my output we just did, right? But don't look at the code. So here's the key. I don't want you to look at the code until you first, right, attempted to do this, because this is something you're going to hear me harp on it again and again. Like, you're either coming up with an idea or implementing it, or you're looking at somebody else, what somebody else did, and you're attempting to implement that base functionality. So first, look at my output we just did. I will give you the link to my Git hack, but don't look at the code yet, right? And then first create the base functionality, right? And then add something that's unique, right? There's so many things. You think about this. Like, there's going to be, how could I make this unique? Well, I could actually add some content that makes it unique, right? That's one thing, is I could add some content. I could also, because there's going to be some elements this won't handle, right? I could do that. And there are ideas that you will come, the way you do this could be unique, right? Again, this is why I don't want you to look at my code. So there's just multiple ways besides the styling. Of course, the styling will be different for all of us, but different ways you could, get a number, which, by the way, let me just say this, because this is a hint, is when you do input, an input type, and you can default this to number, but you actually have to convert this from a string to an integer, because by itself, when it comes in, when you get that value, it is a string value. So that's one thing you're going to have to figure out, right? Is how to do that. And it's not that hard. A little Googling around will make that a bit easier. So I'm just giving you a little hint there. But again, I want you to play with this, right? So maybe you, instead of having these two, maybe you have links like for, the number and then the elements that can be created, because some elements, as an example, if I put input, would that work? Actually, it does, right? But maybe you figure out, based on the way you've done it, which elements, actually, I got to look at that default, right? Because, anyway, so the point is that I want you to recreate this base functionality, get some version of this working, and then add something to it, right? So the base functionality is you get a number from the user, you get the element, the HTML element, and I call mine build it. Again, this is where sometimes, it's hard to come up with new stuff, but I want you to take this concept, name it whatever you want, but this is the uniqueness I want you to integrate. Let me see if I could figure out HR. Would HR work? Because I haven't done them all. Oh my God, it does. That's interesting. Yeah, so this is fun because I hadn't run all the HTML elements to figure out which one would build. Okay, so let me come back over here, right? So, so also adds a CSS and have fun doing this work, right? So that's part of my goal here too, is if you need to review my code, then in your reply, be honest about that fact, right? And this is important because the thing is, I can tell by looking at your code if you looked at my code. And truthfully, you just want to be honest about that, right? It's not that I'm going to mark you off if you looked at my code, because either way, you're going to have to add unique functionality here. It's more that I want to instill in all of us this sense of what honesty looks like when you're coding. Like, this is my code, right? And if you get inspired from somewhere, you say this. Now, when you get inspired from something, the idea is to look at it, but don't recreate it. Make it your own. Okay. Okay. So to get full credit for this work, you need to get this basic functionality working, add some unique features, style it, and reply to two of your fellow students. I will add on here, also give us your Git hack link. Okay. Is it Git hack? Yeah. Git hack link. Git hack link. Okay. So that's the work you want to do for this week. Let me know if you have any questions. Have fun with it, and I'll talk to you soon.